pleased to introduce the outstanding Sheriff of Adams County, Mr. Dale Wagner. Sheriff Wagner is a respected law enforcement leader who made the decision to cooperate with federal immigration authorities to protect his community. Adams County is a small rural county in eastern Washington that I have the privilege to represent. Its people are the best of our district and indeed the best of America, and it is Dale Wagner in which they have put their trust to enforce laws and protect their community. And for that, Dale Wagner now finds himself the target of a legal campaign by our
Mr. Chairman, this is not an introduction. So if the gentleman from my home state of Washington, my colleague, would like to introduce the sheriff, he's welcome to do that, but he is not on this committee, and he's solely here for the purpose of introducing the sheriff.
Points well taken.
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman is not complying with your order.
We'll suspend. The gentle lady is correct in her point of order. The unanimous consent covers an introduction without editorial comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Proceed in order.
For
what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Mr. Baumgartner, question?
No, not at this moment in the proceeding.
He had me all interested in this county.
Again, the gentleman is recognized to make an introduction. That is what is in order at this time.
I'll keep it brief, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. We're very pleased that Adams County Sheriff Dale Wagner is here. And I would just also point out we have 8 outstanding sheriffs in the state of Washington dealing with the fentanyl scourge here with us as well today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Our other witnesses are Mrs. Danielle Carter-Williams. Ms. Carter-Williams is a Chicago resident and fitness trainer who advocates for Chicago residents. She serves as vice president of Chicago Flips Red, a grassroots movement dedicated to empowering communities across Chicago to embrace bold, conservative solutions for a brighter future. Our third witness is Mr. Neil Franklin. Major Franklin retired from law enforcement after a combined total of 34 years in the Baltimore and Maryland State Police Departments. He is currently the executive director of the Law Enforcement Action Partnership. And finally, we have Mr. R.J. Howman. Mr. Howman is president of the National Immigration Center for Enforcement. He's also a founder of the boutique firm Stryker Strategies and is a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Border Security and Immigration Center. He's worked in immigration enforcement policy for more than a decade, including at the Federation for American Immigration Reform. I want to welcome all of our witnesses today, thank them for appearing. We'll begin by swearing you in, so would you please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you. Please know that your written testimony will be entered in the record in its entirety, and accordingly, we'd ask that you summarize your oral testimony in 5 minutes. And we will begin with Sheriff Wagner.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Good morning. My name is Sheriff Dale Wagner, and I have dedicated my career to serving the people of Washington State. Law enforcement today faces unprecedented challenges, many of which stem from political agendas, rather than public safety concerns. One of the most pressing issues in this conflict between Washington State, Keep Washington Working Act, and sanctuary policies, and federal immigration laws, a situation that places all sheriffs in our state in an impossible position. Recently, Adams County became the target of a lawsuit of Washington State Attorney General, alleging violations of Keep Washington Working Act or sanctuary policies. This lawsuit is not about justice or protecting communities. It's about enforcing a political agenda that restricts law enforcement's ability to cooperate with federal authorities. Adams County is a hardworking community built on agriculture, perseverance, and a strong family values. Spanning approximately 1,925 square miles in eastern Washington, our county is home to farmers, ranchers, and business owners who contribute daily to our state's economy. The people of Adams County are resilient and committed to maintaining a safe and prosperous home for future and family. Our office operations by principle of service above self, and we police who we love. Those are our friends and our family and our neighbors. These sanctuary policies prohibit law enforcement from working with federal immigration agencies such as ICE and Border Patrol. Even when individuals in custody have committed serious crimes beyond immigration violations, we are barred from notifying federal agencies or authorities upon their release. The result, repeat offenders, drug traffickers, and violent criminals, and they remain in our communities instead of facing appropriate legal action. While proponents claim sanctuary policies protect vulnerable populations, they also shield repeat offenders who exploit the system. Criminal organizations, including drug cartels, human traffickers, take advantage of these policies, knowing they face minimal risk of deportation, even when caught committing additional crimes. These sanctuary policies create confusion and fear among law-abiding residents and citizens. The public is misled into believing local law enforcement arrests people solely based on immigration status. This is not true. It's not true in my county. Our office, like others across the state, do not arrest individuals based on immigration status. Yet, the policies create barriers that prevent victims and witnesses from reporting crimes, fearing potential of immigration consequences they do not fully understand. This makes it harder for law enforcement to investigate crimes and protect the community. Sheriffs are sworn to uphold the law and protect public safety. However, sanctuary policies place us in a legal bind, forcing us to navigate conflicting state and federal laws. We must follow the state mandate that contradicts federal law, compromising our ability to enforce laws effectively. Instead of focusing on crime prevention, we are caught in the unnecessary legal battles that are wasting tax dollars and divert resources from critical public safety efforts. When law enforcement cannot address repeat criminal activity effectively, families, businesses, and their entire communities suffer. Hardworking residents should not have to live in fear of criminals who exploit policies designed to shield them from accountability. Public safety is a must and our priority, not political agendas. Rather than allowing law enforcement agencies to work at local, state, and federal levels together, sanctuary policies force us to rearrest individuals who could have been transferred to federal custody. This strains our jails, wastes tax money, and puts residents at unnecessary risk. The solution is not to pit state and federal authorities against one another, but to ensure public safety remains a top priority for everyone. Law enforcement should be allowed to do its job without political interference. We must defend the constitutional authority of sheriffs and enforce the laws that we protect our citizens with. We advocate for policies that support law enforcement effort rather than hinder them. Continue hiring and training the best deputies and police officers to uphold the highest standard of professionalism and integrity. Work with local, state, and federal law enforcement and community partners to maintain safe neighborhoods and prioritize security over politics. The people of Adams County have always supported law enforcement, and we are proud to serve our community that values law and order. Despite these challenges, we remain steadfast in our mission to serve and protect. We will not back down from our responsibility to uphold the law and keep our residents safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next witness is Major Franklin. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair McClintock. Honorable committee members, thank you for allowing me to testify today. My name is Major Neil Franklin. I am retired. I'm here today representing myself, having served a 34-year law enforcement career in the Baltimore Police Department and the Maryland State Police, as well as representing the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, LEAP, where I was the executive director for an additional 10 years post-retirement. Lieutenant Diane Goldstein is now the current executive director. LEAP is a nonprofit law enforcement, nonprofit group of police prosecutors, judges, other criminal justice professionals who speak from firsthand experience. Our mission is to make communities safer by focusing law enforcement resources on the greatest threats to public safety and working toward improving police-community relations. While we strongly believe that effective border security is imperative to public safety, we adamantly oppose any proposals that will push sanctuary cities and mandate state and local law enforcement to play a significant role in enforcement of federal immigration law. We believe routine civil immigration enforcement by local officers would harm public safety by eroding police community trust and diverting law enforcement resources away from tackling more serious crime. Ordering state and local law enforcement to act as ICE agents would deeply damage police community trust that we depend upon to do our jobs effectively. Across policing, the research underscores that having trust from the people we serve directly impacts public safety. Police are only as strong as the relationships we have with the public. We can only prevent, detect, and solve crimes if witnesses and victims are willing to come forward to report criminal activity and work with us to address it. A report on Latino perceptions of police found that 44% of Latinos hesitate to report crime to police for fear that it could lead to investigations into immigration status of their family or community members, even if they are legal citizens. Compelling local police to enforce federal immigration law would only further damage community trust, making victims, witnesses, and other residents less likely to report crimes or provide critical information to help us solve them. Forcing local law enforcement to act as federal immigration agents would also divert their focus away from the greatest threats to public safety. Local law enforcement should not be forced to dedicate precious time and resources toward burdensome information sharing and detainer requirements instead of solving serious crime. It would lead to countless people being detained for extended periods solely based upon their immigration status, wasting limited jail space that should be reserved for those who pose the most serious threats to public safety. Proposed bans to sanctuary cities also pose constitutional and civil liabilities for local police departments and jails, exposing them to costly lawsuits that could further drain their already stretched resources. Many cities across the country have been forced to pay massive settlements for illegally holding people based upon requested ICE detainers, a practice that would become more frequent as police hope to avoid cuts to essential federal programs in their communities. For example, New York City recently agreed to a $92.5 million settlement stemming from a lawsuit claiming authorities had detained 20,000 people for days, weeks, even months after their scheduled release date due to ICE detainer requests. The proposed act would put state and local governments in an impossible position of deciding between risking cuts to essential federal programs or inviting potential legal action for violating the civil rights of their community members. Furthermore, one solution does not fit all. Cities and towns are unique with very different needs, requiring different solutions for various problems. Each community should be free to design its own strategies absent sanctions of any kind from the federal government. We are deeply concerned to see the federal government considering blocking federal funds to sanctuary jurisdictions and mandating local law enforcement to act as ICE agents. Forcing local police to act as federal immigration agents would harm public safety by eroding community trust and diverting critical resources away from more serious crime. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you for your testimony. I will next hear from Ms. Carter Walters.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and esteemed members of the subcommittee. And thank you to President Donald J. Trump, the people's president, for giving Chicago Flips Red our first platform, and to the subcommittee for the opportunity to speak truth in the people's house. We proudly stand with our president to bring his message to the Black American community and expose the lies pushed by the Democrat Party and the fake news media. We are here to confront the reality of sanctuary cities. Despite the word sanctuaries, these cities are anything but safe. Chicago has claimed the title for years, and now we're drowning in the consequences. Lifelong residents are pushed aside, schools are overcrowded, crime is out of control, and affordable housing is vanishing. This crisis exploded under Biden and were worsened by the reckless, agenda-driven leadership of Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson. They didn't just ignore the collapse, they fueled it. In December 2023, a few aldermen tried to give us a voice, but the mayor and his allies used systematic stunts to block the vote on a non-binding sanctuary city referendum, silencing Chicagoans and stripping us of our right to choose. Every elected official swears an oath to serve their constituents and uphold the Constitution. Brandon Johnson has failed. He's dismissed that oath in his obsession with keeping Chicago a sanctuary for illegal aliens. He's driven our city into a $1 billion deficit, handed out shady non-bid contracts, and funneled over $6 million into services for illegal aliens. That's why we demand a full forensic audit focused on migrant-related spending. This isn't mismanagement, it's organized looting of taxpayer dollars. ShotSpotter, a life-saving gunshot detection tool, is gone. Hyde Park now bears a permanent 720-bed shelter as illegal alien shelters multiply all over our city. Tax increment financing, known as TIF, meant to revive struggling areas, are being embezzled. Our kids aren't learning to read, while the city teachers cater to non-English speakers. These are deliberate acts of neglect, justified by Chicago's sanctuary city status. Lori Lightfoot licked the fuse with executive orders, and D.E.I. Johnson poured gasoline on the fire. Field houses has been taken, police stations overrun with illegal aliens in tents and are on the floors, leaving officers demoralized. My husband, a retired CPD officer, saw it all. Violence, disease, measles and tuberculosis outbreak, prostitution, and bed bugs that reached our home. Since 2025, over 51,000 illegal aliens have flooded into Chicago. The city's answer? Blend migrant and homeless shelters under the One System initiative and hope no one noticed. Homelessness has jumped by 207% as 2,100 beds go to illegal aliens. When state funding ends in 2025, corrupt insiders will pass the contracts among themselves. This isn't policies, it's racketeering. My husband and I are tax-paying business owners. We did everything right. We invested in the Opportunity Zone, thank you, President Trump, applied for grants, and we were denied. Yet 140,000 illegal alien-run businesses were funded without question. Law-abiding citizens are being replaced to serve a political machine. MS-13, Trendy Agua, they're here. Their graffiti marks our neighborhoods. New gangs, the Venezuelan Disciple, is forming in our neighborhoods. One shelter gets 20 to 30 police calls daily. Drug use, harassment, loitering, and violence have turned parks, sidewalks, and porches into no-go zones. This isn't immigration. This is an invasion. Sanctuary cities do not protect us, they abandon us. The citizens of Chicago, we demand a full forensic audit of every dollar tied to
Ms.
migrant.
Carter-Walters, very much appreciate your testimony, but we have to limit it to 5 minutes. But you'll have an opportunity to expand on those remarks during the question period. So appreciate your testimony.
Okay.
And we'll finish with Mr. R.J. Hallman.
Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Jayapal, and esteemed members of this subcommittee, I come before you today to discuss a crisis that threatens the very foundation of our great nation, a crisis that's been born of reckless policies that jeopardize the safety of our communities and shred the integrity of our immigration system. You know, the sacred duty of any government is to shield its law-abiding citizens from harm. It's the bedrock of why we submit to governance, why we uphold the laws that bind us together. We cherish our families, our neighbors, our way of life, and we trust that the law will stand as our shield, a unifying force that levels the field for all. That's what sets America apart, our reverence for the rule of law. So profound that we demand every aspiring citizen to swear an oath steeped in its honor. But that system has betrayed too many of our people. It's not some abstract debate about legal nuance or political gamesmanship. It's talking the safety and security of our nation. We face a stark reality right now, even with President Trump in office. There are millions of illegal aliens roaming free among us. Some are on ICE radar, 98% aren't. They're nearly all in the shadows. There's criminals, those with final orders of removal who went through due process, 1.4 million of them. And then there's the unknown. And then worse, you have hundreds of so-called sanctuaries. They roll out the red carpet for these lawbreakers while turning their backs on the honest citizens that they're sworn to protect. You know, what strikes me is the silence from one party up here on Capitol Hill. There's no demand for real enforcement. Instead, we're drowned in a chorus of tired slogans and distractions like tattoo motives, chanted as like it could offset illegality. Well, it can't. Amnesty for all, no risk, no consequences. That seems to be the agenda. At the same time, a lot of folks rail against empowering state and local police to aid federal efforts, twisting logic into knots. These are the same officers that we trust to hunt murderers, rapists, traffickers. But if you inject immigration status into it, suddenly they're unfit. Their competence and integrity are repeatedly questioned, again, unless they are defying federal law outright. Then, of course, in sanctuary jurisdictions, everything they do is cheered or enabled. And that brings us to the deceptive term as well, sanctuary jurisdictions. It sounds noble, doesn't it? A haven, a refuge. But for whom? Not our sons and daughters, though left vulnerable due to them. Our communities are then torn apart. These sanctuaries shield the lawless, not the lawful, and that betrayal cuts to the core of what America must stand against. The American people spoke loud and clear in November. It's time for Congress to wake up, shift into the President Trump's gear, and act decisively. End sanctuary cities for good and launch mass deportations now. Every day we delay, we roll the dice on the next preventable tragedy, the next innocent life lost to a criminal alien that we could have deported. And lastly, just consider the numbers that are pretty much hot off the press. From October 1st, 2022 to February 6, 2025, more than 25,000 detainers were declined by sanctuary jails, more than 1,400 instances. The jails failed to give adequate notification to ICE to take custody of the aliens. You see it at more than half of the declined detainers were prisons in California, just where we saw a heinous crime where the child's body was found 10 minutes from where I grew up. When's enough enough? Congress needs to act. Give ICE the resources to act in accordance with the law, deliver on an electoral mandate, secure American communities, and then it's time for statutory changes to make sure these changes last and our system gets ramped up in terms of integrity. I yield back.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll now proceed with questions under the 5-minute rule, and we'll begin with Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the witnesses for being here today. I've read all of your statements that you've submitted and been listening intently to your testimony. Mr. Hallman, I just want to confirm Cook County Jail in Illinois from October 1st, 2022 to February 6, 2025, released more than 1,000 criminal aliens into their community.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yep.
And just want to confirm this, Mr. Franklin. I don't want to take this out of context. You said compelling local police to enforce federal immigration law would only further damage community trust. Is that an accurate reflection I'm reading from your statement? Is that accurate?
Yes, depending upon the jurisdiction and what those unique circumstances might be for that particular city or town.
And Ms. Carter-Walters, in Chicago, where they've released over a 3-year period more than 1,000 criminals back into your community, did that make you feel safer as a citizen?
No,
Did it make your community feel safer?
no.
And did it provide actual safety when you saw MS-13 trained at Aragua roaming the streets there?
No.
So you've demanded a full forensic audit of every dollar tied to migrant shelters, right?
Yes.
And a freeze on the $92 million budget until full reviews are completed?
Yes, sir.
And you want the accountability and community input?
Yes, sir.
And a federal investigation into potential corruption? And potentially, if there is corruption, you want prosecution, is that right?
Yes.
And most importantly, you want an end to sanctuary policies that you feel disadvantages you guys as citizens of Chicago vis-a-vis illegal aliens who are being released into your community.
We want to end sanctuary cities.
And go to you now, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff Wagner. So you outline and give some examples of some horrific instances in your own county, particularly shocking case 2021 in Othello. Can you briefly recount that for us?
Yeah, in 2021, we had an incident of an illegal alien that took the life of a mother and a daughter, the daughter being a special needs female that had the capacity of a five-year-old, and they did it in a very horrific way by dismembering the bodies and leaving them in a trunk of a vehicle.
How did that impact your community?
That was a huge impact in our community.
How so?
Well, any horrific crime, no matter who's involved, is going to impact the community. And I think that the situation that we were faced with is the limited resources that everyone keeps talking about here. I'm a department of 18 people, and that includes myself and my undersheriff that we're working. I'm not a politician. By, I guess, my job I am, but we actually get out and do the work. And this situation...
You imply that we don't get out and do the work, which is that's fair. That's fair, Sheriff.
I'm not saying
that's
that.
Fair.
I'm not saying that. But the reality is that, I mean, it affects the community because we are a small community, a small farming community of all nationalities, and we are very close to each other, and we care about each other very much.
In your recommendations, you talk about allowing you to enforce the law, and that might mean that you actually cooperate with federal officials. So if I understand your Keep Washington Working law, that's the statute there, are you allowed to hold someone with an ICE detainer?
We are not.
Are you allowed to transfer someone if ICE requests that you transfer them to their custody?
According to the KWW, no.
So the state law actually directly, not indirectly, not impliedly, it actually directly defies federal law, federal statute.
That's what I understand, yes.
Yeah, because federal statute says if you get a detainer, you're supposed to hold.
Yeah.
You're supposed to hold. That's what federal law says, and you can't do that there.
Correct.
How does that impact the safety of your community?
Well, ours is impacted in a great way because, one, my jail has been closed for 3 years, and I find that ironic in this situation as well. But it impacts us in a great way because, like I believe it was Mr. Jordan was explaining, putting people out onto the street and having them get caught again becomes a bigger problem. We're not arresting on immigration status. We're putting people in jail for crimes they committed in our community, and then ICE, because of public records that are available and things like that, they have the ability to find out who's in our custody and where they are and when they're released and all those kind of things. And they are basically released to their custody in the opposite way, similar to Denver in most cases.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My time has expired.